This is the second and final part of our interview with Sammy and Justine from Employed to Serve. Hi, I'm Anthony from Make a Difference with Records, and we're still here in Woking. Thankfully, the temperature's dropped a bit since we started the first part of this interview, and I'm here with Justine and Sammy from Employed to Serve. And part two, guys, is where we get on to your musical influences, take you into the mists of time when you were very small people buying your first records. So the first question, guys, is what was the first album you bought with your own money?
Mine was Justin Timberlake's Justified.
Okay.
I loved that album. It's still one of my favourite pop records of all time.
You got it?
Yeah.
Still?
Yeah, I think so.
You didn't sell it and buy the CD?
I've got it on CD.
Oh, you got it on CD
Yeah,
as well as
that was my
vinyl?
first CD, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's one of my favourites. It was like, I got into that record from the Like I Love You music video that was played on MTV like all the time.
Okay,
I was, like,
yeah,
going
yeah,
before school.
yeah.
So yeah, it was that one.
So you were there with your hairbrush singing away?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
still do.
She really does. Justine has a what we call a hype playlist, and it comes on before we go on stage. Also comes on in the van as she's driving, and it just pretty much contains that entire record. A lot of Destiny's Child, a lot of TLC, and other R&B of that kind of.
I bet you
era.
love it too, don't you?
The thing is, I do actually.
There you
Yeah,
go.
I mean, like. Justified. I can't say I know the whole album back to front, but all the singles from
I
it,
do.
like I Love You, Cry Me a River, Senorita.
Yeah.
Rock Your Body.
I mean, at the end of the day, you can pretend
So
you're.
Justine's now gone off, by the way. I think she's off in a little trance.
You just can't. I mean, you can pretend to be metal as anything, but you gotta like good pop music.
It's
at
just
the
good.
end of the day
It's
as well.
just good songwriting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's really
absolutely. What about you, Sammy? What was your first?
Mine is more stereotypically of metal, so it was Papa Roach Infest,
Okay.
which was the first album I ever bought, and it was a huge one for back then. I mean, early noughties was when we were.
How old were you when you bought that?
It was 2001, so I would have been 11.
God, you were a cool 11-year-old.
11.
Yeah.
I was still.
I got into metal.
That's extreme for 11.
I know.
The thing for me was,
Weird
without
kid.
a long story short, was just because of the new metal boom, which was
Yeah.
the big thing in heavy metal back then. There was a lot of like slightly older kids walking around wearing like Slipknot hoodies and t-shirts and stuff, and
Yeah.
and it was just fascinating.
And the patches.
Oh yeah, the patches on
Yeah.
the backpack and stuff.
Tipex lyrics.
Yeah, and like Last Resort by Papa Roach came out, which was the huge breakthrough single on that record, and yeah, it was everywhere. I loved it, and I needed to have it on CD.
And again, do you still have it?
That one, I do believe, actually, when we moved into this place, I think I might have parted ways with that one, which is
Yeah, we're
is
on
a shame.
a one-in, one-out system with CDs at the moment. And we
Yeah.
mainly like collect vinyls.
Is
so-
that more theory than reality? The one
well,
in, one
and
out?
we're in like.
It is more theory than reality, yes. Because as you can probably see from here, there's like CDs starting to make their way
Yeah.
off the shelf, but
It's hard when you like collecting stuff.
Well, if you have problems with the one out, you know where to bring them. We're very happy to take
This
them
is
off
true.
you.
this is true. This is true. Yeah, I might next time I come to collect more records, I might have to bring some to sort of swap.
Well, that's your favourite kind of customer. That's exactly who we want. What about first single?
First single, I think mine was Sum 41 Into Deep, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I bought that. I had the Now 49 CD, I think it's on, and it had Fat Lip on it, and I wanted the other one, Into Deep, because they were like the two big
Yeah,
singles at the time,
yeah.
Oh, they were huge. Yeah.
which is really awesome actually, because we got to play on the same stage as Sum 41 year before last.
Yeah, at Rock
Yeah.
for People in the Czech
So
Republic.
that was
yeah.
really cool.
So did you toddle up and go, I bought the first?
Oh no, I don't do that to people because just in case because like I don't know, I always get awkward like because I always go, oh, I like your band, and I'm like, oh, what do I say now? Bye.
Freeze.
Well, I have to say, because it was a really cool experience. Their guitar player did walk past our dressing room afterwards and said, hey, that was a really sick set, completely unprovoked. And I think for all of us, that was a moment
Oh, it
of
was
like,
insane.
oh my God. You know what I mean? This band that we've listened to literally since we were children, you know, walking past and complimenting us on our set. So that was definitely a very cool
I like
moment.
to be like stoked from a distance.
So in terms of first single,
So for me, I had Papa Roach Last Resort on single, but I can never remember which I bought first. So it was one of these three. It was Papa Roach Last Resort. Or it was either Richard Blackwood Get With The Wicked. It was that 1, 2, 3, 4 Get With The Wicked.
Yeah.
Or Cisco.
Thong Song.
It wasn't Thong Song. It was Enter the Dragon. It was one of those three. So it was either.
Yeah.
It was
Oh,
quite an eclectic mix.
Was that not DJ Pied Piper and the Master of the Ceremonies?
No.
And do you like it? Is it wicked?
I mean, it might have been called the same thing, but Cisco definitely had a single
was it
called Enter the Dragon. So
Sorry to call you out.
no,
Just
I
checking.
think it was called Enter the Dragon. It was something Dragon, but it was either quite an eclectic mix. It was either Papa Roach, Richard Blackwood, or Cisco.
we'll have to take this to adjudication, I think. One of those anyway.
Yeah.
So those are the easy questions, guys. We get to the more difficult stuff now, which is really impossible question, this next one. So the flat's on fire. Hopefully that never happens, but your flat's on
Fingers
fire.
crossed.
And you need one hand, of course, to open the door to get out, but your other hand is free to pick up one album that you're going to take with you, and you can only take one album. What's that album going to be?
Are we viewing this from a desert island disc kind of angle where it's like a record that you just cannot live without, or are we viewing it from a like cherished possession that
Like
record
first
cost a lot of
pressing.
money kind of angle?
Do you have a legal background at all?
Sadly not. No.
Oh, I do have a legal background. Can I just clarify your question before I go?
Yeah.
Well, you can answer it from either way. I think most people think of it from a Desert Island Disc. It's the one you really couldn't do without.
Cool.
Let's go with that then.
Perspective.
Yeah.
Got you.
Do you need time to think, or
I'm good, I reckon.
Go on then,
I
Justine.
think Deftones' Cherry Waves.
Okay.
That's like one of my favourite records of all time.
Yeah.
It's like, generally speaking, it's sort of like their least popular because it was sort of very much recorded in different times and sort of it's quite a disjointed record, but that's why I really like it.
Okay.
and quickly to
and-
jump in, not to call you out, but you're getting confused because Saturday Night Wrist and Cherry Waves is on the record.
Was
Just-
it called
So I
Saturday
think
Night
you
Wrist?
just got yourself.
It's called Saturday Night Wrist.
Just
but,
so the listeners can check it out if they're not familiar.
so they get called out on YouTube.
Yeah.
But yeah, because Beware and Cherry Waves are my two favourite songs from that
Okay,
album.
okay.
And there's just like it's an incredible album. There's like loads of like weird interlude bits as well that they don't. They do sometimes put interludes on their other records, but this
Yeah.
one's quite full of it, and I really like it. So, yeah.
They're one of those bands, aren't they, that even for some people, what they would call their not so great albums, like a lot of people say Saturday Night Wrist is, it's still a great record.
Still
You can't
amazing.
deny it. Yeah, they're one of those bands without a dud in their collection.
Yeah,
you know.
because like Around the Fur is like my second favourite Deftones record. That and White Pony are sort of usually the favourites, aren't they? But yeah, Saturday Night Wrist just about wins for me.
Excellent.
And then yeah, like
you've had a chance to think now.
I
with
have,
that
and
stalling question.
I will. I mean, because there's some obvious answers to this, and I feel like I usually give the same answer, and it's usually between Holy Diver by Dio or Far Beyond Driven by Pantera. But I'll go for one of perhaps the lesser known bands, Akakoka, who they are not too far from here. They're from Bedfont, which is only sort of down the road.
Right.
And their record Corazon would be like a record I personally cannot live without. It's it was a huge gateway for me into sort of a more diverse area of music. They're essentially a sort of death black metal band, but they're
Yeah.
very proggy, and getting into them has led to me getting into a much wider array of music.
Okay.
They've almost got a post-punk vibe with them as well. a
Yeah,
little
there's
bit.
Killing
They're
Joke in
quite-
there. There's Dead
got
Can
everything
Dance
in
in
there.
there. And
Bit
without
goth tinge as well.
yeah,
places.
new romantic kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So without Akakoka, I don't think I would have necessarily
Okay.
have gone down the route and explored
Yeah.
all this other music. And Corazon is definitely a standout moment in their discography.
Cool. Interesting choices. So we were talking earlier about vinyl, the resurgence, and the great thing about that was the artwork that you get. So and Conqueror, I was saying that I love the album work, the artwork on Conqueror. If you're talking about your favourite album cover, the one
That's a really
if
hard
you
one.
could only hang one album cover on a wall and it was the only piece of artwork on that wall, what would it be?
God, that is such a tough one. I mean, I'm just going to go for this because I feel there's multiple answers, but this is definitely one of them. Becoming, obviously, a big Yes fan over the years, I've become, just product placement. I've become a big fan of Roger Dean by proxy, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Because the artwork is a big
Yes.
part of
Yeah.
the music. And to pick one cover would be quite difficult, but I'm quite partial to Relayer.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
as much as I'd love to have a Roger Dean print on the wall, it's just a little bit too spenny. But if I had the money, it would probably be Relayer by Yes.
As soon as we go platinum, we'll go buy.
Well, we went
Roger
to go see him, didn't we? And we were looking at some of the prints
Yeah.
Well, he did
they're
an exhibition
expensive.
down at Trading Boundaries about a year and a half ago. And had
Right.
all his artwork in its full glory. It was meant to be seen.
It's incredible. I mean,
It is incredible when you see it actually full size.
Well,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
because
beautiful.
it's usually gatefold, isn't it? And you're not usually looking at it for like the whole kind of landscape
Yeah.
that it is. And when you see it on the wall, you're like, oh wow, that looks really
Hmm.
stunning.
I think I'm gonna go with Sleep's Dope Smoker album art actually, because I think that looks incredible. The
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
I mean-
with the sort of desert. It's got a very Dune vibe. The
Yeah.
sci-fi novel.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. That's like the only one that comes to mind really, because I don't really have a favourite, but I have
Yeah.
many that I like. Yeah.
It's a tough question. That I mean, that is
It
a good
is,
pick
yeah.
though for sure.
Well, hopefully this will be relatively easy. So the next question is around artists that you admire and perhaps would like most to collaborate with, or wish you'd had a chance to collaborate with, and the time perhaps has passed for whatever reason. If you were to do something with another band, I know you've done something with Renounced, as an example,
Yeah.
who would you want to collaborate with and why?
Probably Health.
Mm.
So they
why is
do
that?
a lot of remixes
Yeah.
with other bands. They're just like, I've been a fan of them for like years and years.
Okay.
And they're quite known for doing remixes and everything
Right.
they've done. Like they've done stuff with like Lamb of God.
Yeah.
Pretty sure Nine Inch Nails as well. And yeah, like everything they've done with like the bands they've mixed with. So yeah, I'm a fan of their music as well. So I reckon Health.
That would be cool, wouldn't it? Because I feel like
It actually makes sense as well.
We've done a
Yeah.
couple of remixes before, and it's always nice to give like another interpretation, isn't it, of
Reasonably
songs
nice.
that have already like come out. And I'm speaking because I'm struggling to think of who I'd like
Buying
to
time.
collaborate with.
You could just agree with Justine. and
Yeah,
we
I
can
mean,
move on
I
if you
do
want.
agree with Justine on that one, to be honest with you. I mean, there's about 1,000,001 artists I'd like to work with,
Yeah.
and to sort of, give a little tease to the next record, there's a few that have come to fruition, so...
I thought you were going to say yes, given that you're wearing a
Yeah.
cap. with
Oh my god, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if Steve Howe wants to come
That would
and
be
do
our weird concept record.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to do that. But yeah, no, Health would be really cool. I concur.
Agreed.
yes. And in terms of live concerts, if there's only one concert you could go and see, what would it be? Whether it's you're in a spaceship and you could go back in time, or a concert you would just pay any money to go and see, what would it be?
Destiny's Child.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Front row.
Oh yeah. Literally
little,
like
little sparklies on.
front row so that I can't see everyone's phones. Yeah, I reckon
Oh, that
Destiny's
would be
Child.
nice, wouldn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
sans the phones.
I think Destiny's
Actually, that's a
Child.
great thing about metal gigs. You don't get phones, really, do you?
Yeah, you get them less.
Yeah.
Well, you
Like
don't get
pop
many.
shows.
Put it that way.
Because when we saw Kendrick Lamar, I could love Kendrick Lamar, but yeah, there's a lot of phones going on.
Oh, okay.
And like, it's kind of, sometimes you can even see people with their iPads, which is mental.
That is an
That's
interesting
so
flex.
annoying.
Like, yeah.
What about you, Sammy?
So, it's once again, it's a toss-up between Pantera back in the day, obviously with the now deceased Dimebag, Daryl and Vinnie Paul, or Ronnie James Dio. And I think I will pick Pantera with the actual lineup because I did have a chance to see Dio and I missed my chance.
Okay.
And I think I just have to live with that regret. Whereas
Yeah.
I got into Pantera after they, because they split up in 2001, and I didn't really get into them until like 2003,
Okay.
2004. I never had a shot at seeing
Yeah.
that. So that will be my pick to see. I mean, I know it's a classic pick for any metal guitar player to cite Dimebag Darrell as a major influence, but I think he is
He's
untouchable.
iconic, isn't
He is, and he's
Yeah.
untouchable, and just like no one can make a guitar sound like he did. So to see him in action would be a dream come true for sure.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Very different answers,
Very
aren't they?
well. That's what we like.
makes it interesting, you know.
And no sideways looks to go. What?
What? Yeah, we kind of look at each other and be like, "Hey, that checks out." Yeah.
I was saying to Sammy earlier that one of the reasons I was so keen to get you guys on is that at the moment we've had a number of artists who have come on here, and they've generally been in the traditional kind of rock mould. And one of the things that we're really keen to do as part of our bid to promote the benefits of music and mental health is open up people to music where, for example, they might be having a tough day, or they might just want just to completely forget stuff, pure escapism. When we're trying to build up what we call a virtual vinyl vault, a large cross section of music that will appeal to people in that kind of situation.
Yeah.
And we'd be really interested to get your recommendations on 3 albums or whatever it might be that you think would be great to go in the vinyl vault.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's once again been a... Well, this one was actually easier because we had 3 to pick
I
from.
flew
but
through this one.
Well, you can have more than 3. People normally cheat at this point and
Oh, do
give us
they?
a whole host of stuff, but if you can start with 3, that would be great.
Yeah.
Do you want to go first, or shall I go first?
You take the floor.
So one is Have a Nice Life's Death Consciousness. That's like one of my favourite records of all time. It's like when I'm struggling to fall asleep, that's the album I listen to as well.
Okay.
Not because it's boring, but because it's very atmospheric.
Yes.
Very beautiful record. Yeah, that's like incredible. Also, the vinyl I bought for the special edition's really nice as well.
Okay. Lovely.
Gatefold, isn't
Yeah, it's gatefold. Second probably is going to be Duster's Stratosphere.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the sort of slowcore record. And
Yep.
interestingly, they've gotten really like kind of had a resurgence because of like I feel like TikTok, like loads of slowcore and sort of more post-rocky stuff's gotten bigger because of like the sort of ambient
Yeah.
film stuff that's on there.
Yeah.
So that's the second one, and then my third would be Bjork's Vespertine.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a big Bjork fan, so yeah, I reckon Vespertine.
So are those your go-to records then?
Yeah, my 3 go-tos.
Fantastic. That's an interesting choice.
There's that, like, just to talk about Vespertine for a second, there's like
Undo.
that Undo
track.
and It's Not Up to You, that track. I think particularly like when you're like overly thinking about life and its many challenges and stuff, and it's just got the lyrics, you're trying too hard and stuff, and it's not up to you.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
feel like
yeah.
sometimes you do need that reminder of like,
Chill out.
chill out, you know what I mean?
Respect
Some stuff
in
is
the
just out of your
universe.
control, and you just need to kind of
Yeah.
Yeah.
let things work
Also,
themselves
Bjork's
out.
just awesome.
Well, Bjork's something about her voice that's very calming,
Yeah. And it's very...
even though it's quite edgy in some ways.
It is.
But,
It's
but,
a very weird, nuanced sort of voice, like that's like unlike anyone else.
but
as
it's
well.
kind of I find it semi-hypnotic actually. Bjork's voice. It's sort of a strange one, really.
Another thing as well, I like looking at her interviews. Like,
Okay.
there's this one, like for when I'm like not feeling great, I like watching the one where she explains how a TV works. That's like one of my
Oh, I
favourite
see, they're
interviews
great.
I
ever.
haven't seen. I've got to
It's
look that
really
up
bizarre,
now.
I
So
love
It's
it.
worth it.
I've got to look that one up.
she's like, yeah, I'd love to go drinking with her.
Didn't she say she used to drink a bottle of vodka every Friday
Yeah,
or
so I
something
think it was.
like that?
I think I read in an interview it was like a family tradition in her family in Iceland. And on Friday night she would just like be creative and drink a bottle of vodka.
Okay.
If I do that, I'd fall asleep and probably die. But
Didn't start with the cornflakes in the morning then. It was an evening
Yeah.
thing.
it's just an evening getting drunk with vodka.
Bottle in an evening. That's some game.
Yeah,
It
I
really
know.
is some game.
Yeah, next day wouldn't be pretty.
God, no, it makes my head hurt thinking about it.
What about your 3 albums?
So yes, I will start with a record that has been a huge one for me, which is The Bees Made Honey in the Lion's Skull by Earth.
Okay.
And Earth are a band that started out as what's known as a drone band
Yeah.
from Seattle. And as they evolved, they kind of moved away from the sort of minimal feedback, and they kind of went into what I would say is just kind of like minimalist, like southern rock, I guess. So there's
Right.
no vocals. They have later put out material with a little bit of vocals on,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
The Bees Made Honey and the Lion's Skull is purely instrumental, and I find 90% of the time, if I'm looking for a record that I really want to lose myself in and kind of, block out the noise of the world, I'll go for something instrumental.
It's drinking on a porch kind of music, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's
Right there.
if you want to go for a nice, long walk or just something like that in nature.
Long drive as well.
The Bees Made Honey and the Lion's Skull is just
Okay.
the ultimate record for it.
Great artwork as well. Should choose
Oh yeah, I mean, look it up, but I've got like the Bible vinyl edition, which is like leather bound and it opens up.
Yeah,
and it's
I'm
got the
going to
artwork.
check that out as soon as we've
Yeah.
finished here. I don't know
Just,
that one.
it's it's so much a big one for me. Justine even did me like our own like painted version of it years ago
Edition.
as a present, and
Fantastic.
yeah, check it out. It's great. It's quite repetitive, but it builds slowly, and I feel it's just
yeah.
the perfect thing to lose yourself in.
Weirdly, it's kind of almost Discord records like Lungfish a little bit, isn't it? And some of the riffs.
Yeah, kind of
Yeah.
like sort of post hardcore. It's a great listen. And then moving on from that, probably I've not stuck to, that's probably the most metal sounding record I've picked, so I've kind of gone a bit off piste, but I love jazz, and John Coltrane's A Love Supreme was a record
Okay.
I wanted to pick, just because sticking to the notion of records that don't have really any vocals on it particularly,
Yeah.
I feel that's another beautiful record that
Okay.
if you just kind of
I'm
want
familiar with that one. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
just absolute classic, and I like to listen to it and go look at the ducks. Once again, not very metal, but
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's sometimes you just need to check out, don't you, as it were?
yeah,
It's nice to appreciate the small things as well.
yeah, absolutely. And so to sort of follow on from me talking about Akakoka, I don't really feel like I would have gone down the realm of finding, these sort of jazz classics if it wasn't for the more progressive
Yeah.
elements of
Yeah.
the metal world. Same with Earth, you know what I mean? It's these more sort of esoteric bands that are in the sort of metal and rock stratosphere that kind of open up the doors to the other musical worlds,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So without them, I don't think I would have discovered, Miles Davis and,
Okay.
Bitches Brew and records
Yeah,
like that. So yeah, Love Supreme's in there, and then finishing with Cocteau Twins, Heaven or Las
Oh,
Vegas.
okay.
Oh, that's a great shout.
And
Yeah.
but I would say we kind of share that one. That's a record for us if we're going on. We've got a long drive anywhere.
Yeah.
We'll stick that on because you just feel good listening to
Yeah,
it. I mean, the
yeah.
vocals are
Yeah.
just astounding. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
And sonically, it's just astounding in general. I think that record, it's just got such a sheen. To
Everyone
it.
needs a feel-good record, don't they? An
Yeah.
absolute one. You just put it on, and that's it. You're just in a happy place. And
Immediately, yeah, exactly. And
mine's Haircut
Dave
100, Pelican West, which is an 80s
Okay.
sugar pop album.
Oh, okay.
It's
there you
Check
pure
that out.
sugar pop.
Can't
But
go
it
wrong.
just reminds me of university, driving along in my mum's car when I shouldn't have had it, and
yeah,
the windows down and all that kind of stuff. So
it just immediately transports.
it just takes you back to
that.
a happy place at a moment in time. But
Mm.
cool. Those are really good choices. Actually, I think those have expanded our horizons on the Vinyl Vault, which is exactly what I was hoping for.
Nice.
So, the last question we come to. So, in the context of what we do, which is we do two things really. We try and raise as much money as we can for Catalyst, who principally work in the mental health space locally here in Woking and around the Surrey area. But we also try and promote the benefits of music in the context of mental health, which is what we were just talking about with the Vinyl Vault. So in the context of what we do, and you think about your discography and the albums you've done, what do you think would be most relevant to us that you'd like to donate to us?
Probably Conquering.
Conquering, our latest record, for sure. Yeah, I mean, we've sort of touched upon it a bit in the interview of talking about how, the cause relates to what we put out as a band as well, because we kind of find in metal music it's very easy to kind of get stuck in this feedback loop of negativity.
Right.
And from about Eternal Forward Motion onwards, we wanted to make a very blatant kind of step in the direction of trying to actually focus on the more positive stuff of life. I felt like the first few albums, you just kind of get in this negative headspace of just kind of not really touching upon the brighter side and kind of self-empowerment. And with Eternal Full Motion conquering and Into the Future with this new record, we want it to be positivity, but be the overarching kind of vibe. I would feel, going back to that kind of cathartic feeling of performing live, it before would be this kind of like expounding of like negative energy, and sometimes you'd also well, for me anyway, personally, you'd kind of feel not necessarily better for it. Whereas now, going on stage and performing particularly songs from Conquering, I do it with a big grin on my face, and I want it to be a positive, life affirming experience without trying to come across too cheesy when we perform live, and make it a fun experience rather than that of like a negative one.
I mean, to me, the subtle shift, as it were, my take on it was that whereas perhaps in previous albums it was just a lot of anger, Conquering was still angry about stuff that's wrong,
yes,
but it was more a kind of, well, we're just not going to accept it, as opposed to not just getting angry about it, calling it out, and then having that strength to call it out, and having the strength for others therefore to call it out and say, I want to be me. What's wrong with being me? I'm not your stereotypical whatever it might be. I'm just me, and that's cool.
Absolutely, yeah. It's kind of like noticing that things are always going to come up in life, and there are going to be those hurdles, but rather than kind of like the old records being like, oh, now it's this and then it's this, it's been like, no, I've kind of got control of things and I can sort of deal with them in a healthy way and get past it, you know what I mean, and become a better, stronger and more wise person in the process.
I think it's a product as well of like getting older and like sort of the young like sort of angst that we sort of felt when we were like in our 20s. You kind of learn how to sort of deal with things a bit better and find healthier coping mechanisms. So yeah, I feel like it kind of bleeds through into like our later music.
Is that something to do with confidence as well, going from I can't deal with this, I can't do anything about it, I'm really just angry, to actually I can do something about it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like as soon as I hit my 30s, I'm like, oh, I know who I am now. Well, more or less. You kind of care a little bit less about like what people think, and you know what you like, and you don't pretend like to like things you don't anymore. And I think that's kind of nice, sort of like just sort of like translating that into like lyrics and music and being like it can be weird.
I mean, that's the great thing about the Make a Difference with Records thing. We've been going now for 3 years. One of the great things for me personally is discovering a whole range of music
it's fun,
that I just had no exposure to when I was young, because you were very much wanting to be part of the pack.
That and no streaming services and having to buy a record.
Yes, you were very much exposed to what everyone else was listening to as opposed to what you were discovering yourself. So, it's fantastic just to be able to spread your wings a bit and just experience stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Making your own mind up.
Yeah, I think things are a lot less tribal in that regard these days. Like we've noticed it with like younger generations where they're just like, they're not like, I'm into rock or I'm into R&B or whatever. It's like they listen to Spotify. They've got this wealth of different genres and they kind of pick and choose as they will, because why not, give it a go and see if you like it.
Although my pet peeve about things like Spotify is that people rarely listen to full albums.
I do agree. Yeah, I mean, as much as I do like singles and just doing like one-offs and stuff, I am an album person and I never want to see them die.
I think I like Spotify as a discovery tool.
Yes.
Like, because people have got a finite amount of time, haven't they, in a day? So it's really good to have like a preview of a record. So like I kind of like being able to skip through and be like, oh, I like that, and then listening to it as a whole. That's quite nice.
And it's great for dancing around the kitchen or you're cooking or whatever it is, and
absolutely
you don't want to sit down and
I think what it comes from as well, like traditionally pop records are 4 singles and filler. So I think like coming into other genres, I think especially if like you're new to metal or rock, they don't really realise that the whole album's amazing. And like written to be listened to as a whole. So maybe it's that. Who knows?
Well, listen, guys, it's been a blast talking to you both. Thank you so much for welcoming me here and inviting me over. And thank you for the donation of Conquering, which is an awesome album, by the way.
Thank you very much.
I think it's absolutely, it's definitely as your best, I think, to date. But
awesome, thank you. Well, no, thanks for having us on. It's always a pleasure to chat music. So
all right,
it's been a gas.
Thanks both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was the second and final part of our interview with Justine and Sammy from Employed to Serve. Check out our other interviews on our podcast channel and YouTube channel, That's My Vinyl Answer.